Hong
Kong.
Carpool Critics podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Carpool Critics podcast. I'm James Strive.
I'm Riley.
I'm David.
And today, there's no synopsis because we're not talking about just one movie. No, this is the lead up to Star Wars episode.
We're talking about a belief system. Jediism.
An essence. It's between everything.
Yeah. It's inside and outside.
It's a feeling.
It's in your blood. Down. Measurable.
Midi-chlorians, my dude.
Yep.
This week, we're watching the new Star Wars movie. That's only like 2 days away.
I'm actually pretty excited.
Oh my gosh.
Just a weight lifted off your back when that's over.
I know. I feel it.
So we can't contain all of our thoughts and feelings about Star Wars to one episode. So we have to talk. This is the prequel. Really.
Hey.
Well.
This is episode 1.
I guess so.
This is the original trilogy.
Yeah, this is the original trilogy. And then the next one's the sequel. This isn't a prequel. Don't get it twisted.
Well, we don't know how good it is yet. So.
Prequel. The name of the prequels is tarnished.
So I figure
before we get into it,
what we're going to do is establish who we are in relation to Star Wars.
Yes.
What do you like? Are you a prequels guy?
You couldn't even finish the
sentence. Do you
sentence.
like The Last Jedi? That kind of stuff. Or even just what kind of fan you are. So I think we actually kind of have a good representation here.
We do.
I'll start with myself.
Yeah, who are you, James?
I think I'm in a good place to mediate this.
Yeah.
I'm probably the least hardcore Star Wars fan here. I've seen all the movies. I've seen everyone in theater that I was old enough to see in theaters, including episode 1, even though I was like my parents had to bring me to that one.
Right.
I've seen them all in theaters that I was old enough to see in theaters, including episode 1, even though my parents had to take me. But for the new trilogy, Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, I didn't see since they were in theaters. Until this week when I rewatched them, I hadn't seen Force Awakens since it came out because I watched it and I was like, eh. And then I didn't see it again until then.
Okay.
I've played some video games.
Really?
I know who Ki-Adi-Mundi is.
Wow.
I know who Plo Koon is.
That's actually pretty good.
So I know some of that stuff.
What game were they in? Obi-Wan on Xbox?
Yeah, the one where you could click your thumbstick and throw your lightsaber.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a sweet game.
Yeah.
I played KOTOR. I played some pod racing games. So I know a bit of lore.
This is more than I expected.
But I don't know the models of guns and ships really. I know I know what an A-wing is and B-wing and Y-wing.
Yeah.
Basic. I'm the most basic you could be with going outside of the
you're more of a I was gonna ask, would you even describe yourself as a Star Wars fan?
Well, I would. It depends who I'm talking to though, because there's some people who are
you're not a Star Wars fan.
You don't even own a cloak.
Right.
Oh my.
You're a pretty good stand-in for the average guy who's I like Star Wars, but is not oh man, I really like Star Wars.
You're I'm gonna go see it opening week, but I don't have any books about it.
The opening week is even that's pretty good.
Yeah, right. But thousands of people are gonna see it opening week.
That's true. Okay, do we go to me or David?
Let's go to me. I think I'm the next natural progression. So I love Star Wars, and I have since I was a kid. I've watched all the movies probably 5 to 20 times. I've played many, many video games, all the Jedi Outcast series, The Force Unleashed, KOTOR. I haven't played the second one, though. Both modern Battlefronts, both classic Battlefronts. The movies especially, but the books, the games, not the TV shows.
Clone Wars and Rebels?
I saw the animated Clone Wars series.
The 2D cartoon or the 3D cartoon?
2D, the 2D one.
2D one, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's pretty good.
Tack that on.
Hell yeah.
But you didn't watch the 2D or the 3D? Or
I tried. They're just not good.
Yeah, they're for children.
But it's not that it's for children. For children's okay. Avatar Last Airbender is for children, but it's awesome. That's pretty much it. I love Star Wars. I love nerd culture. But I've never bought the encyclopedias and tried to learn about the Y-wing engines or about why certain guns fire a certain way. I just accept that it's lasers, it's awesome space battles. It's cool.
You didn't feel the need to dive into the universe and pretend that these things existed in real life and learn all the details.
What about when the latest movies came out? Did you go online and participate in forums or on Reddit and the discourse? Or do you just kind of lurk it,
Capital
read it?
D?
I'm definitely a lurker in general. I was excited. I saw Force Awakens, I think 4 times in theaters.
Wow.
And I've seen that one probably 6 to 8 times total. And so I really like it. I don't really do online discussion. This is the most online I get.
You're not extremely online, capital E, capital O.
Especially since the discourse over the last movie started,
Mm,
I kind of just had to shut it off, Just
Right, at a
ignore
certain
any
point.
Star Wars notifications that happen.
Unsubscribe. Get out of my Google feed.
okay.
Okay, Riley.
On to me. I grew up in like a huge way with Star Wars to the point where I don't remember seeing the movies for the first time. I don't remember when I saw, Episode 1 Phantom Menace or anything. I assume that I saw it in theaters. I know that I saw the re-releases of the original trilogy in theaters. I don't remember seeing like Attack of the Clones in theaters, but I know that I lined up on opening night on Revenge of the Sith and dressed up with my friends in
What'd you
grade
dress as?
10 or whatever that was.
How were you dressed?
I would just had Jedi robe, but we also one of our friends wore a zebra costume and pretended to be a Wookiee. It was great. And my other
Are there
friend,
zebra patterned Wookiees?
no, there's not. It was
Okay.
a joke.
I had to check there.
And my other friend had a lightsaber fight with the guy in the theater while we were waiting for the movie to start. That
Very
was
cool.
sick.
Very
But anyways,
You're one of 4 boys, right?
I'm one of 4 boys.
So does that mean?
and
I think this is relevant. Like you might be
Yeah.
in your house, it's just Star Wars all day, every day. Every kid in the house loves it.
see, this is what I was going to say. I'm one of 4 boys. We all liked Star Wars, but I liked it the most out of everyone to the point where they were like, oh, Riley's the Star Wars brother. He cares about it.
So if you were a Star Wars movie, you'd be the last virgin.
Eh,
That works.
probably.
It's pretty good.
So my love for Star Wars went to those very places you guys are saying that you didn't really go, where, I cared about like the model numbers of the starfighters and like the names of the planets and the species, and like I dove into it with I wanted that encyclopedic knowledge to the point where like my friends would ask me when we were watching something, they'd be like, "Oh, what's that?" And I'd be like, "That's the E11 blaster rifle." Like, blah, blah, blah. Like I would give them the specs. But this is the
Wookiees
funny
are from Kashyyyk. It's got 3 Ys in it.
wow. But this is kind of the funny thing that when you guys were explaining this, I was like, oh, you guys maybe imbibed more Star Wars media than I did even. Where like my fandom, I think, was mostly based on the movies and like books. I played a bunch of games and stuff, but like, I don't think I didn't go rewatch movies. I haven't seen like Force Awakens like 4 times.
But reading the books does a lot for you. Like there's things I know about, like when Force Awakens was coming out, I only know that Han and Leia have kids that are like Force aware from talking to people who have read the books. It's like secondhand knowledge.
Right.
It's kind of floating there. It's the same with my comic book knowledge when it comes to Marvel.
Yeah, and this is the other thing, that Star Wars is really the only thing that I really went that in depth on. Like I was kind of interested in DC Comics a bit.
Did you read Halo books?
I didn't read.
Ooh.
No, I didn't read
Did
that.
you say
Yeah.
I heard. I think there's a couple that are good. I've
Yeah,
heard.
there might be a couple that are good, but like I'm not a Trekkie. I know some details about like superhero movies. I nerd out about that sometimes, but like that's pretty much it.
But
it's
this
Star
is-
Wars and superheroes a little bit.
This
Well,
is the shit.
This is
till I
think-
die.
This is why I think maybe this is my problem, because we're gonna get into this, but like I was negatively affected, to say it mildly, by The Last Jedi and the Disney sequel trilogy in general, because I think I had invested so much in it, in Star Wars.
I think you're preaching the choir.
What?
There's a
You're the choir?
no. I mean, when this airs and there's all these people that can be in their cars being like, exactly, my whole identity, don't F with my childhood.
Yes.
Disney.
So
Exactly.
my question would be, when Disney announced that they were erasing all the extended universe, how did you take it?
Okay. That's
When
a
did
really
they
good
announce
question.
that?
As soon as they acquired it, pretty much as soon as they announced the acquisition of Lucasfilm, they were like, "This is how we're moving forward."
So what did they say? Did they say that nothing is canon except the movies?
Yes,
Okay.
and like some of, I think the Clone Wars where it was out at that, the animated 3D animated TV series, the Clone Wars. I think some of that remains canon.
Is it like
I think it all remains
all of
canon.
it? Like anything you can watch on your TV is canon.
Not the 2D animated Clone Wars series, but that was always Legends, I guess, because that was superseded by the 3D animated Clone Wars. But
Oh wow.
pretty much most things you can watch on your TV and that's like a narrative thing you can watch is canon. But that's it. There were books, comic books, video games,
They're crossed off.
and illustrated encyclopedias, like not canon anymore. And
Okay.
for me, you asked me how I reacted to that. I was like, they have to do that. That's necessary because, realistically, they can't go 100% by the book. And that's the same reason when they do like superhero movies, the Marvel Cinematic Universe isn't 100% canon to, the 616 universe in Marvel Comics or whatever.
Not only is it
it's
impractical,
impossible.
it's impractical. It may be impossible. It's also expensive. It actually is going to have a bottom line impact. Like for people to research all that stuff, make sure that everything is non-conflicting.
Right.
Ugh. And where does that leave you?
I will say the one thing that they did do to make up for it, because I agree, it's kind of sad that they erased all of that and like that those books exist outside of the canon. But I do appreciate that now they have a board of people that checks every book that's being written, every TV show that's being written, and verifies that it fits into this new canon.
Okay, so do you know the answer to this? Did they not have that before?
They did not.
They didn't have the Lucasfilm story group.
There was people that were kind of overseeing it, but it wasn't like everything has to pass through this. There was stories that were allowed to exist without that.
Wow, it's like the French. They have that Ministry of Language
Mm-hmm.
that gives genders to things like iPod. Is it la or la?
Oh, yeah.
And they
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
have to. It took like 3 years for them to make a word. They were mad that everyone was saying the weekend. They hated that everyone was saying weekend, so they took like 3 years to deliberate on what like the French word for weekend would be. It's like fin de semaine, and nobody says it. Finish
They
up
just
the week or whatever.
Le weekend.
In
Yeah.
France, they say
That's like
weekend.
by law, like you must say this now. But now, like this is the official French way to say
Free
it.
speech!
But everyone else is just like, okay, that's cool, but then le weekend.
That's infringing. That's infringing on free speech.
I
right
love
there.
speaking French around David. He's just like,
No, it's fine. I love it.
You stupid. What are you doing?
He's not even gonna validate that.
Where were we? The canon.
Yeah.
I understood that that's what they had to do, but at the same time, I was hopeful that they would use, as the Marvel movies had done, I was hopeful that they would use the comics as sort of an inspiration for what to do with the movies. And as we've seen, they didn't really do that.
Well, they did it a bit, right?
Well, okay.
Ben Solo. He's a Force-aware child of.
He's a Force-aware
Those
child,
two.
but yeah, the kids were always going to be Force sensitive.
Yeah.
In the original canon, we had Jason Solo and Jaina Solo, the Solo twins, and then later they have another kid named Anakin Solo, and there's a lot of stuff that happens with the Solo twins. But
That's why I
this
always
time-
thought Rey was Kylo Ren's sister.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that. They're like, oh, these are the analogs of like Jason and Jaina, is Ben and
Rey.
Also, it makes no sense that his name is Ben.
Why
Just saying.
not? Why not?
Because who was close to Ben Kenobi? Not freaking Leia.
That's a good point.
Did she even meet him?
I don't know.
I'm upset.
David's seen the.
It's already
original
starting.
trilogy.
No, they haven't met. They never met. Han Solo met him and maybe appreciated the impact that he had on.
Han Solo just like made fun of him until he was dead, basically.
Yeah, but that's when he didn't believe in the Force. In the new ones,
That's true.
It's all true,
Yeah,
Riley.
it's
It's
just-
all true.
It's
The
just
Jedi, the Force.
yeah.
So you weren't originally upset when they said this is what's canon going forward.
Yeah,
It's
maybe we
us.
should tell this
But-
story,
but
how
the-
we felt when like Force Awakens came out.
Yeah,
What-
because if they're gonna have a ministry where it's like only what we write from now on is canon, and then they write the things that they did,
what do you mean?
they're like what we write from now on, like that's canon,
Yeah.
and we're gonna be super judicious about that. And then they go on to do Force Awakens and Last Jedi,
Yeah.
and you don't like what happens in those movies, then you're like no,
Exactly.
You're like no,
Exactly. So like when Force Awakens came out, and I think everyone kind of has a similar opinion of the Force Awakens. I don't think Force Awakens is really that controversial. I mean, maybe you'll disagree with
I
this.
think there's like a gray zone. But
Right.
Continue.
But for the most part, it's like, well, that was A New Hope, but it was pretty good. Felt like Star Wars. It was
Alright.
we're coming back to Star Wars. Here's a Star Wars movie for you. Everyone was like, yeah, that felt like Star Wars. It wasn't amazing, but it was good enough. And hopefully the next one's better.
So the disagreement starts now.
Okay.
I like
Starting now. Go.
The Force Awakens, I think, is a pretty darn good movie. I think I agree. It's got a shell and a little bit too much of A New Hope in it, but it also does a lot of its own things. I think it set up really good characters. I think the action's excellent. I think the drama's like awesome. And I think the stakes are set up really well. And so I think it does a really good job in setting up this trilogy. And I think it's better than just a replica of A New Hope, which is what kind of I think the discussion has devolved into. I think it's actually a pretty good movie in its own right.
What about you, James?
I don't know. I feel like this is how I feel actually about both the last two movies. You're right for some moments. There's in both those movies, there's moments where like, this is great.
Yeah.
And then there's other moments that are weak. Like some of the new characters are cool. And like when Finn is with Rey, they have great banter.
Oh, so good.
Remember when they're running in the desert and he keeps trying to hold her hand and she's like, stop it!
Yeah,
Like, that's awesome. But when Finn's in the TIE fighter with Poe and they're trying to break out, they have like no banter at all almost. They're both just shooting the guns and like not talking to each other. I'm like, what a waste.
I don't think that's true. I think they like do a lot and they establish their relationship really quickly. I love that scene when Poe pulls Finn to the side and he's like, why are you doing this? It's like, because it's the right thing to do. And he's like, you need a pilot. And I think like that's good humor. It sets them up, like it sets up their relationship. And I think they do a good job expediting their relationship and creating this chemistry between those two.
They do say that stuff, but when you watch it again, when they're the TIE fighter, they don't really talk to each other. And it's a missed opportunity.
I agree with you, David, that there were parts of the movie that were like, oh, that's awesome. And I think that's why people say it felt like Star Wars, because there were these moments where you're like, that feels good. Man, seeing Poe come in his X-Wing on Maz Kanata's planet, I forget what it's called, when Finn has a lightsaber and the stormtroopers are, they just escaped, and the X-Wings come in, and that one continuous shot where like Poe's X-Wing comes up and just like blasts like 12 TIE fighters in a row out of the sky, like chills.
Yep.
Every time I saw that movie, I was just like, oh, yes.
Yeah. And the sound design, right? Because it has all those familiar blaster sounds.
Yep.
Pew-pews.
Yeah.
It's
brilliant.
so good.
They killed that aspect of it. The problem with the movie is that and this is the problem with a bunch of different Star Wars movies, is that they feel like in order for it to be a Star Wars movie, we need these certain plot elements. We need a Death Star. We need a secret plan.
That is my biggest
secret
pet
map.
peeve with Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Is Star Killer Base.
Yes.
It's so stupid.
I can't disagree with that.
Right. And so that's really the biggest issue that I have with the movie, is that they played it so safe, and that's why it feels so good, is that they played it so safe that it was ultimately unfulfilling.
Is that a response to the prequels, though, that don't have those
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was a direct response to
convoluted
the prequels.
plots? And
Yeah.
And I think that the sentiment was that this is actually okay, that it's so similar. Like, this is good, and then the next one can build off this, and we can have a whole new like trilogy based, like building off of this foundation that is pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it does more of its own thing than people give it credits for. I think, like, yes, of course, there's a Death Star, and like there's a droid with secret plans, and there's all these things. Like, there's elements of like iconography from Star Wars that's copied, but I think the movie actually like has its own identity, and I think people don't give it credit for that. Like, these characters are strong, and like what they're doing isn't exactly the same as Force Awakens, and like the plot beats aren't exactly the same. And like, yes, you can boil down the movie to be like, well, in like minute 10, the protagonist has to do this, and minute 20, protagonist does this. But you can do that in any action movie. You can do that in any fantasy movie. And I think that it's really diminutive to diminish that movie just to that argument. I think there's a lot of really good stuff. And like we've talked about a few moments, but that moment in the snow when Kylo Ren is pissed off and he's like, traitor! And he yells at Finn, and then like Rey gets smashed against the tree and wakes up, and like you think that what's his face? Kylo Ren's gonna pull the lightsaber, and it goes right to Rey, and the freaking Jedi theme plays, and it's like, oh, this is the most epic freaking moment ever.
Yeah,
there's awesome moments.
But there are good moments. But I think what I'm saying is that we expect those moments, and that's awesome that they pulled through on that. This is the thing about Star Wars, is that it is special in the world of franchises. To me, Star Wars is not just another franchise like Star Trek or Terminator.
Not yet. Just wait till it's like Bond.
Well, then we're gonna get to this. It's getting there.
I love Bond.
But like up to this point, Star Wars has been this like special thing. So like when we get this movie that like executes on these things that we want, these cool moments, the lightsabers flying past and like getting into someone's hands, and then the music swelling and like cool X-Wing moments. Like, we get those moments, and that's sweet, but we want it to be perfect. And that was the problem with The Force Awakens, is that it gave us all those moments, and that's why it felt like Star Wars. But it didn't try enough to differentiate itself.
See, I think you think,
because like there were cool characters.
Yep.
But like
the First Order sucks.
Yeah.
It's poor man's Empire.
Totally.
It's like way less cool Empire. And Huck, Or Hux.
Yeah.
Is it X or
Hux.
K?
General Hux. Yeah.
Hux sucks, man.
I know.
He's such a little, like, alt-right dweeb. You hate him. He's such an incel.
Yeah.
Like, he's not cool like Grandma... Is it Marv Tarkin? It's a Grandma Tarkin?
This is where your Star Wars, if you hadn't explained your
I've
Star
never
Wars
seen it written.
level up
Okay.
till now. Yeah. Grand Moff Tarkin.
What's a Moff?
A Moff is a planetary governor or like a regional governor.
Oh, wow. And he's a grand one.
He's the Grand
He has
Moff.
children who are Moffs. His children-
Mofflings.
Anyway, he's just so weak compared to those, and it's just such like he's a poor version of those. And the whole First Order, you're like, they never explain what the First Order is. You just have to bring this baggage, your Star Wars. You bring your Star Wars baggage to the movie, and you're like, oh yeah, it's just Empire again.
Ugh, that's the
then-
biggest annoying thing for me with these movies.
And another example of that is like Kylo Ren. Who's Kylo Ren? Oh, he's poor man's Vader. His mask is lamer. Although that's part of his character. I get that he aspires to be it. That's cool. But his mask sucks. I don't like his helmet.
Had David off
I used
there.
the force on David there.
It pushed me away.
My hand went up.
James put his hand up to David and be like, no.
See, I don't disagree. General Hux isn't great, but I think that's the point, is that they're trying to draw attention to Kylo Ren. This trilogy is around Rey and Kylo Ren and their relationship. And if you have these other villains that are too strong or too good, you can kind of pull away from that.
Ooh, let me continue.
But in terms of like Kylo Ren, I think he's like a really interesting villain. Like he's one of the most interesting villains. Like,
I agree.
The Emperor is very one-dimensional. Vader's two-dimensional, and like he has a redemption arc, but he's very interesting, like how they set him up in the fear. But like there's not that much complexity to him. And they tried to add more with the prequels, but the prequels don't exist, so it's fine.
Do you think, as a little aside, that whenever Kylo Ren has a tantrum where he smashes the little room he's in, that adds to his character or just makes him look like a baby?
Well, I think it adds to his character by making him look like a baby.
Yes, he is a baby.
It's not a good look.
He's a little whiny bitch.
When he smashes an elevator or something, I'm just like, ugh.
I was thinking about that though, because like he was wearing a helmet for much of that movie, right? So I think that was an attempt. We see this kind of like in the Mandalorian as well. Like when someone wears a mask, it's hard to get them to emote. It's hard to see where that character's at. So J.J. Abrams was like, okay, well in this scene, he's wearing a mask, so we can't really see his facial expression. So I'm going to get him to trash this thing to show that frustration. Rian Johnson's solution to that was to be like, let's get rid of the helmet altogether. So one of the first things that happens in Last Jedi is he smashes his helmet. Not one of the first things, but he does it pretty early.
So I will say in defense of that, the only other character we've seen in the movies that's been that torn between the light and the dark is Anakin Skywalker. And if he was given the opportunity in like a space where it was okay to have a tantrum, he would have done it. Because like,
he's a baby too.
And so,
and that's the dark side.
Yeah.
It's for babies.
And so I don't know. To me, it doesn't take away. To me, it makes him a more interesting character. That he's got all this force power, but he's also like childish, and he's like, I don't know. Like I think it makes him more complex.
But you put a pin in the fact that Grandma Tarkin is. Well, David said that these other strong characters will detract from the main characters.
And
that seemed to make you mad.
Thanks for bringing me back to that, mediator.
Because Grandma Tarkin is so cool. Grandpa, he's a male.
You know what's
Grandpa
so funny?
Tarkin.
What's so funny? Peter Cushing, the guy who plays Grand Moff Tarkin, I've always thought this. Like, if you dressed him in a grandma costume, he would be like a really nice, creepy grandma.
What the hell are we talking?
He's got the facial structure. Somebody should Photoshop that.
Sure, he's a beautiful man.
Okay, anyways, my point about that you came back to was that I agree with you, David, that a lot of the characters and plot points in these movies are set up to serve the Rey and Kylo Ren story. But to me, that is it's not bad that things drive the plot like that, but it's bad that they are bad in service of that plot. So like, we shouldn't have to have General Hux be a joke of a character in order to serve that plot. We don't need to have Captain Phasma, who is literally just an empty suit of armor.
She sucks.
To serve Finn's plot.
Yep.
Like we don't need these kind of like contrived scenarios where like we have these ridiculous bombers that shouldn't exist in order to serve Poe's plot.
The precedent for empty characters and cool masks has been set. Boba Fett is pretty lame.
Yeah, totally. And I totally agree with that. And like Boba Fett's coolness only
arose.
So
cool though.
His coolness only arose thanks to the expanded universe, with people being like, oh, he didn't actually die in Return of the Jedi. And then we wrote all these books about him and stuff. And that's cool. But, and I wouldn't go and defend the fact that Buzz Lightyear, What a weird Freudian
To
slip.
Tatooine and beyond.
I just watched Toy Story last night, like
Love
the
it.
original Toy Story.
So good.
In preparation for the Star Wars
Are you
podcast.
thinking of like Boba Fett's jetpack and then seeing Buzz's wings? Like, what happened there? Doesn't make any sense.
I would not defend the fact that Buzz Lightyear in the Star Wars movies is a throwaway character. He doesn't have much definition. Like I would agree that's also a weak point.
Wait, you just said Buzz Lightyear again. Who are you talking about? Boba Fett?
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
Okay.
The original
They
Mando.
both start with B.
Okay.
To be fair to me,
Boba Lightyear.
the other thing
Buzz
with
Fett.
the other thing with Boba Fett is that he's not really important to anyone's story. He's like a bit player.
Huck is important because
Hux is important because he's part of Kylo Ren's story.
Yeah.
And Phasma is important because she's integral to Finn's arc. But we don't know anything about those people. And they suck.
and there's not even any conflict between Phasma and Finn really, other than her being like, I
Yeah.
didn't say you can take your helmet off.
Yeah, like
Put that back on.
He was her employee that insubordinated
See, I disagree. I don't think that whatever Buckethead. What's her face?
Phasma. See, you don't even know her name.
She's
Ah.
useless.
You might as well call her Buzz Lightyear.
Buzz Lightyear. Buzzette Lightyear.
Buzzette.
I don't think she's critical to Finn's story. All his arc happens not around her. She's just like goalpost for him to face. At the beginning, he's like not strong. He's not able to stand up to her. He just takes an order. But at the end, now at this new goalpost where he's stronger and like a more independent person, he's able to defeat her. And I don't disagree. She's lame, and it sucks that they marketed her as cool.
Yeah.
Because like I think that was a mistake. They should have just let her be a cool stormtrooper. But I don't think she's integral to his story.
Can we talk about power levels in Force Awakens? That was one of my biggest pet peeves.
Oh, dang.
My
Okay.
biggest peeves.
Tell me about it.
Continue.
It starts off with Kylo Ren's first scene, which is when he stops that blaster bolt like right in midair.
Yep.
I don't know a lot, but I'm pretty sure that makes him like the strongest person we've ever seen.
Okay.
Like we've never seen that in any Star Wars movie, have we?
We have not seen that in any Star Wars movie, but every Star Wars movie kind of adds new force powers to the library of available force powers. So for all we know, that's not like you don't need to be like a super powerful person to. And there's also
No,
different.
I don't know, man. To me, it's on in a different category of power. Like there are different. I know
James?
there's different powers. I know there's like battle awareness and like you can Jedi projection and there's mind tricks.
Yeah.
But like all the Jedi are using their lightsabers to deflect blaster beams. The whole saga.
Yeah.
Are they beams? Bolts? What are they? Lasers?
Blaster bolts.
Bolts. Okay.
They're made of plasma.
They're deflecting them the whole time.
Yeah.
It seems like
if you could
they
just stop
be
them.
like,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
about we just stop
Well,
them
he
all?
doesn't stop all of them. He stops one.
But he holds it for a long time, and then he continues to do other tasks with it just sitting there
Right.
as if it takes very little effort.
It appears as if this force power is kind of something that you can like more or less set or forget as long as you kind of have it in the back of your mind. Like, let me tell you. There's all there are also kind of like different strengths between Jedi. So like one Jedi could be really good at this, and another Jedi could be really good at that. So just because Kylo Ren can do this particular force power that we've never seen before, it doesn't mean that he's like the most powerful.
You
guy.
can't do lightning.
Well, he might. I don't know.
Never seen it. But I think it serves cinematically to set him up as really strong.
Yes.
And then a couple hours later, you have a stormtrooper like with a lightsaber fighting him. He's injured, but Finn fights him.
in the snow scene.
Yeah,
End of Force Awakens.
like
Yes.
Finn doesn't win or anything, but even just to fight him, it's just like, oh man. Like,
Yeah, it
why
was a
are they-
little unbelievable.
Anytime Finn touches the lightsaber, I'm like, no.
So
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I think there is a bit of an issue with the power level, but the explanation is that he's been shot and his gut's bleeding out. And like they don't show it as bloody, but like that bolt that he got shot by like would blow someone up normally. And so he's pretty messed up.
Yeah. And I
Well-
sort of accept that explanation. I accepted it more before The Last Jedi came out, and I retroactively became more angry about things that happened in The Force Awakens.
And then Ray ramps up in power really quick too.
Yes, but there is apparently a canon explanation for that, which is that she downloaded Kylo Ren's Force powers when he tried to interrogate her about the location of the Resistance base or whatever.
Is that a fan theory or is
though.
that?
Yeah, like is there anything in
No,
the movie to say
That's
that
in the
happened?
book. That's in the book.
Which
There's
book?
like the Force Awakens book
So it's
version.
actual canon?
Yeah, it's
Sure.
like, and she is like, she had a vision and she saw all his training and stuff, and then
But I mean,
like came back. So
so-
the idea is that Rey is so powerful because, and I don't agree with this, and I think it's stupid, but Rey is so powerful because there's like no Jedi left in the galaxy, so the
light meets the dark.
Yeah.
But isn't that provided in the next movie?
They kind of explain it in the next movie.
But not at all in Force Awakens. I thought that was like a Rian Johnson invention.
Right. So if we're only talking about The Force Awakens, yeah, that's definitely a hole. But, again, after The Force Awakens, I expected things to be explained. So anyway, the canon explanation is that, okay, the light side of the Force had to find a conduit through which to go, and there are no more Jedi, so Rey gets all the light side power that's available. And B, because she downloaded all his Force
If we
powers.
don't accept A, but we do accept B, which is she just downloads it, then isn't it an incredible risk for someone like Kylo Ren to interrogate anyone who's Force sensitive because they just get to download his power? Or is it because she's so powerful that she gets to download it?
It could be that
but
as
it's
well.
also,
he didn't know that she was Force
sensitive. If we're going with
sensitive.
that explanation, part of it is that they're like brother, sister in the Force. So like they're more connected than other Force users would be.
Brother, sister.
They're partners in the Force. Like they're the counterpart. They're the yin and yang of each other in the Force.
Yeah.
And so I think like I don't really love that explanation, but if we're going with that, it makes sense that like he's the dark side half to her, and like his training is now part of her training. Like they're connected through the Force.
I just think that's so dumb because of this reason. The Star Wars mythology is based around the hero's journey, right? Or the original trilogy is anyways.
Yeah.
And part of that is the hero having to train, right? They don't start off being good at everything. They have to work at it. They have to find a teacher. They have to learn things, and they have to work and train and fail and get better through learning, through failing and
They
learning.
have to jump off into chaos.
Yes, take a leap of faith and all that stuff. Hero's journey, good stuff.
If you guys don't know what the hero's journey is, Joseph Campbell is the guy who wrote the book on this stuff that George Lucas read.
Yeah.
And you can actually watch Joseph Campbell explain all this stuff on Netflix. Just type his name in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
There's like a big interview.
Yeah. And the original trilogy is like 100% based on the hero's journey, like the hero with 1,000 faces. Okay. And Rey doesn't do any of that stuff. She doesn't train. She doesn't have any training whatsoever by the time that she defeats Kylo Ren in combat. Yeah, he was injured, but like this guy has been training with the Force since he was a child.
But we don't know what his training looked like. Maybe like what's his face, Snoke, hasn't been training with a lightsaber. Maybe he's like
We know that he trained with a lightsaber with Luke.
He already had a lightsaber by the time he went to the dark side.
Because when we see the camp, like in the next movie, in episode 8, when you see the flashbacks to Luke versus Kylo Ren in that little tent, he has a lightsaber on his bedside.
Yeah.
But maybe Luke was doing proper Jedi training, whereas inciting people to violence as the first instinct. He was training them to be peaceful and like use non-violence to solve these issues.
He already had his own issued lightsaber, though, and he knew how to use it to the
extent
extent
that you have a lightsaber. It's the weapon of the Jedi.
But he defended himself against Luke with it. Like, he must have been trained.
Yeah, but Luke also faced Vader after like 2 days of training. So like in Empire Strikes Back,
And he got his ass handed to him.
he doesn't get his ass handed to him. He's like toe to toe with him until the end.
Yeah, but Darth Vader was playing with him.
Yeah,
but he was fighting him while at the same time trying to convince him to join him. So he wasn't trying to kill Luke.
We don't know how close that battle is. All I'm saying is that
he's wearing a helmet.
timing-
We can't see any sweat on his temples.
Yeah. All we know is that Luke was trained in the Force by Yoda in a matter of days. And so like we don't like the idea of like needing years and years of training.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't.
How long is he on Dagobah for?
He was on Dagobah for a matter of days before he faced Darth
And then he
Vader
goes
the
away
first time.
and
then Empire
trains by
Strikes Back,
himself.
there's a time jump between Empire
trains by
Strikes
himself, not with Yoda.
He goes back.
No, after. That's the first time he goes back to see Yoda is in Return of the Jedi. He hasn't seen him since.
The first time he goes back to Dagobah is in Return of the Jedi.
Yes. And so he's gone to train by himself. He's read some books.
But regardless, there's a time jump.
Mhm.
And there has been time where he no doubt... Actually, there's a lot of canon, I think, that he goes and like tries to find Jedi artifacts and stuff. So he's like in it. He's like in the Jedi mindset. Yeah. He's trying to learn him.
Yeah. Wait, but that's not canon anymore.
No, it is canon.
Okay.
That's the new canon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, also remember that Rey spent a lot of time kicking ass when she's on Jakku. Like, not with the Force, but she's fighting. She's really good at fighting.
With the Force. We don't know how like little or much she's using the Force.
But
back
Luke
then.
never kicked anyone's ass. He was just like shooting wombats or those little creatures.
Whining to his buddies.
What are those things that he shoots? He's like, I shoot those things all the time when I'm practicing being a pilot as a kid.
Oh my gosh. Nerfs? No.
Ah, whatever.
I need to look it up.
We found the limit of Riley's.
Oh no, he was in a T-16 Skyhopper.
That means nothing.
All I'm saying, it doesn't matter about how much the time is. Like, it doesn't matter how much time you got trained from Yoda. Is that these are movies and they have to expedite things. They have to move things on. And like, the movie isn't trying to show us these training montages. It's trying to get us to these moments.
Womp rats.
You were close.
I wasn't very far off.
What did you say?
Wampums or something. I think that's like a Crash Bandicoot thing.
I knew it was
Wampa
Wampa
fruit is Crash Bandicoot.
Okay, that's fair. But my problem is that with Rey in the new movies, we have no training.
Until the second one.
Luke got training. Rey did not. In The Last Jedi, she doesn't even get training. He tells her stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, the Jedi were bad. And then he's like, all right, come sit over here. I'm going to tickle your fingers while you meditate.
Do you believe in the Force?
That's it.
Do you believe in the Force?
What are you talking about?
The most powerful force in the entire Star Wars universe? Like the thing that connects and powers and like unites everything and like, I don't know. Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of things in Star Wars that are kind of dumb and you just have to be like, yeah, the Force.
No, see, we can't go here. We can't go here because there are rules. There are rules.
The Force rule breaks all rules.
There's midichlorians.
No, and this is we've stumbled upon the main difference between me and David here. Okay, because there and people who think one thing and another thing about this movie is that
which movie?
People like me, all of them. People like me care about the rules in Star Wars, right? We're like, okay, we've seen this and this and this and this and this. So when you have things that seem to contradict that, that's an issue. Mm-hmm. There are other people who are like, Star Wars is a fun space fantasy series. And yeah, it's cool to like see the same ships that we saw in the other one or whatever. But for the most part, you can make up the rules and do whatever you want. You can make lasers curve in space and there's sound in space or whatever, and it's fine. That is where the conflict here lies. I am like, hey, this is wrong because we've shown that the Force isn't something you can just download and pick up and boom, you're a Jedi. Okay, the story of the Jedi, the lesson that we should take from these stories, and particularly the Jedi theme in it, is that training, meditation, contemplation, it's important for character development. It's important for people to learn that, okay, that is how you become better, is by practicing, acknowledging your failures, moving on from that.
Mental discipline.
Yes, mental discipline. The movie throws out the whole idea, the Force Awakens and The Last Jedi throw out the entire idea of mental discipline. The only inkling of it we get is the finger tickling scene where, and I will keep calling it that, where Rey is sitting on the thing and you know, Luke's telling her the little story and like getting her to like think about the island and all that stuff.
Reach out with your feelings.
Yeah, that's the only thing. And the only thing that he actually trains her there on is reach out with your feelings. And that's it. There's no like, hey, don't let your emotions get out of control. And like,
don't give up.
Yeah, don't give up. Keep trying. Like, these are such important lessons, especially for me. This is what I took away from Star Wars.
You know what's really weird about that is that the whole thing in episode 8, that they kind of like rebrand the whole thing of how it's going to work. It's like they do so much work to say that you don't need to be the son of a Skywalker or a Solo. You can just be a little kid who works on a really, really shitty and annoying to look at gambling planet, and you can be sweeping stables, and like you have the Force, and the Jedi don't own the Force. We don't even need the Jedi religion.
Right.
The Force is for everybody,
and that's a cool.
But at the same time, you've got like, you were just born super Force sensitive. You're awesome. The Force chose you to be against Kylo Ren.
But I mean,
so you like got rid of all the privilege and you brought it right back.
Rey is one particular case, and I don't fully disagree with like how this breaks some of the rules that they've set up for the Jedi, but a lot of the rules are fucking stupid. A lot of the Jedi Order stuff is really stupid. Like Jedi Order like is useless. And like in every movie they're in is absolutely useless. Okay. Sure, in some of the extended universe stuff, they're fine.
I agree with you.
At the rise of their power, they allowed Darth Sidious to like
even
to
Luke
hide
says
the dark.
The legacy of the Jedi is failure.
Yes. But okay, I will give you that, and I agree that the Jedi Order, the lesson that we took even before the sequel trilogy was that the prequel trilogy's Jedi were crappy. They were dumb.
Yep.
Because for all of those reasons, they got Anakin to like completely repress all of his emotions, his fear about his mother and everything, until he just exploded and joined the dark side. Like the prequel Jedi were sucky. Yep. And we learned that in the prequel trilogy, and that retroactively made us realize that the lesson in Return of the Jedi was that the prequel trilogy Jedi were dumb. Because Luke saved Darth Vader with his emotions. What we should have got is the lesson that, hey, you know how Luke succeeded? He didn't do what the Jedi did. He allowed himself to have his emotions, and this is what we got in the expanded universe. they're allowed to marry, they're allowed to have familial relations, they embrace
Episode
their
8
emotions.
almost goes there. When they talk about balance.
Yes.
It does.
But
it does go there.
My problem with the sequel trilogy is that they're acting like we didn't learn this lesson in the original trilogy.
Does it go there though, David? Because Kylo Ren's like reaching out to Rey, like, we can do this together. Screw all these like conventions. But then he's asking her to like rule the galaxy with him, which is very first ordery.
It's all about balance. And that's everything in Star Wars. It's about balance between everything. Light side, dark side, like forgetting the past, holding on to the past. And like that's why Kylo Ren is wrong, is that he wants to fully erase the past. But what Star Wars, The Last Jedi is actually trying to do is be like, it's about both. You need to move on from the past. You can't hold on to the past. You can't hold it so tight.
But remember
that you create these fucking diamond rules and you can't enjoy any movie ever again.
David can never do this during sound checks.
We ask him to get passionate.
But it's also about like creating something new and like finding a new love and a new like passion. And so like, I think so many things about people that don't like The Last Jedi.
So I want to actually, we've been doing this for a while, but I think we can keep going. I want to talk about, in like a tweet size kind of answer maybe, do you like where they were going in The Last Jedi with Jedi, with, the Jedi are ending and it's a good thing, and this is how we should start thinking about the Force. It was a departure. It was different. Some people think it was like the most, like the biggest shakeup and the most refreshing thing in Star Wars in a long time. Some people think it just totally ruins everything. Where do you guys stand?
I feel like I should let David go.
Sure. I think it's great. And I think there's extended universe stuff where they contemplate on the Jedi Order. But within the movies, the Jedi Order sucks. And that's like not the message of the movie. It just, they sucked, and it's because the writing was bad. And like the Jedi Order wasn't like set up to be bad because they were bad. It was set up to be defeated by someone so powerful. And so I don't think that the movies are self-contemplative in the sense that they're like, yeah, the Jedi Order wasn't really good the way they were until The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi is the first movie that's like, that wasn't so good, was it?
This is why I'm upset about The Last Jedi.
He's upset.
I'm upset because we could have gotten such an interesting story about, like, from the get-go, where we are told that the theme is, respecting the past while moving forward. But instead, we got Force Awakens, which was just like, respect the past. Only respect the past, because we're literally copying A New Hope. And then we got The Last Jedi, which is like, move forward. And then at the last second, they're like, no, just kidding, don't move forward. I'm not going to be The Last Jedi. Rey's got the books. And what we could have gotten was, from the get-go, Luke is training Grey Jedi, all right? He learned in Return of the Jedi that, like, okay, Yoda and Obi-Wan were like, hey, control your emotions, all right? Don't go save your father. There's no hope for him. Your love can't do anything for him. But what does he do? He goes and saves Darth Vader with his love, with the fact that he has
That's not in the movie. In the movie, he saves him by his restraint. Like, he shows that, like, he's not going to give up to the evil side. And, like, Darth Vader's like, oh. And Darth Vader's love is reawakened through the torture he sees.
Yes, exactly.
It's not Luke's love for his father that saves him.
Both.
It's Darth Vader's being like...
Luke's love is what makes him still believe in his father. And Darth Vader's love is what makes him save his son. His restraint is from the bad emotions.
You're bringing that in there. They never say love. They never it's not
make
about
it,
love.
They don't make it explicit.
Daddy?
But this is like... and this is the interesting thing about the movies, right? And the people who were like embedded in the EU is that we all knew this. All the EU people,
everyone across Europe,
not England,
Romania,
all the expanded universe nerds who care so much about the friggin' X-wing details and how many proton torpedoes it can hold. Like, we knew this.
Isn't it photon torpedoes?
It's proton
okay,
torpedoes.
Photon
That's
Star Trek. Okay.
Yes. Ugh.
Okay. So here's
let him go.
Wait. All the people who care about that stuff, we knew that was the deal. We're like, hey, in the expanded universe, Luke, we already learned this lesson that Grey Jedi is a good thing. Like,
and they're called Grey Jedi? Like, it's explicit?
Eventually they are called Grey Jedi. I'm not sure whether Luke's Jedi specifically are known as Grey Jedi. I think they're known as the New Jedi Order. Because it's the new Jedi Order as opposed to the old Jedi Order. They're not so like repressed and fucked up.
The NGO.
Exactly. So we already knew this, and it was frustrating to have this movie kind of being like, guys, you think the Jedi were great? Edgy take. They weren't. and we're like, we know.
So you're upset that for like the 99% of the people that haven't read the book, didn't already have that conclusion that wasn't in the movie?
They could have laid it out for us without character assainating Luke in order to get us
Character assassinating?
Yep.
Oh my God, get out of here. I can't even. That
Okay,
place.
back up from the mic if you're going to yell at us.
That place where Luke is from George Lucas's original script.
I know.
So that is where George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars 1 and Luke, so you can't even tell me that it's not where it's supposed to be.
David, this might be a shock to you, but George Lucas is an idiot. He's an idiot. He's so dumb.
I'm saying
I have no respect for his sequel treatments.
That's convenient.
Going home. It's convenient?
Yeah, it's convenient.
No, I have no respect for his prequel. The way he did that story.
So you just
either.
accept some of the stuff that he does and not all of it? I think as the originator and the creator of the Star Wars universe, which
but you don't think that.
You don't agree with that.
You think he's an idiot.
You don't agree with that because I know that we've had discussions about, like, you and I both recognize that he was edited and curtailed it when he was making the first movies, and that had some really great results, like Han Solo not being green or something.
Yeah, for sure.
And then that he had so much power during the production of the prequels that he just got to do whatever he wanted, and that resulted in crap movies.
Unmitigated power for any director is bad,
or a Jedi.
But I think that not all his ideas were bad, and like I think that's the general consensus on the prequels is that yes, they're terrible movies, but there's some good ideas in there. There's some actually like cool ideas and good world building.
100%.
So I don't agree that we should just discount anything he says automatically.
I don't agree with that either. Yeah. But my point is that just because George Lucas wanted Luke Skywalker to be fallen or whatever after in his sequel treatments means nothing.
So what did you want out of Luke Skywalker?
I wanted a Luke Skywalker that is realistically still the role model that he was in the original trilogy. There is no need to take the accomplishments of the original trilogy and completely undercut them. Oh, we defeated the Empire? Just kidding. Empire 2.0 is here, and they just destroyed... Oh, and the New Republic demilitarized, and it's Empire 2.0. That's all the same. Oh, you thought Luke Skywalker completed his arc and was like a good role model and like completed the hero's journey? Just kidding, he sucks. Oh, you thought Han Solo learned something and changed and like learned to care about something bigger than himself instead of himself? Nope, he's back to being just a regular smuggler. Like so many of the things that they decided to do with the sequel trilogy were just, they took the things that were set up in the original trilogy and we're like, you like this? Nah, just kidding. It sucks. And it's just so...
I couldn't disagree more from the bottom of my being.
Because it's not real life. That's not what happens in real life, guys.
So I'm not going to defend the Han Solo decision because I think like whatever. You're right. It would be interesting if they developed where he was going, taken the idea and like developed it and like grown him another 30 years or whatever.
Yeah.
But with Luke Skywalker... what they did on his journey is way more interesting than having him be a statically finished character, that he's completed his arc and that's it. That's it for his life, that he's a Jedi master and that he'll never find conflict again.
That's not what I want. That's not what anyone wants.
That's exactly what you said.
No, that's not what I know.
You wanted him to be the leader of the Jedi Temple and be a good role model and show exactly how it is.
The problem here is that it's a spectrum, right? And people who, I don't want to attribute things to people. Me saying that I didn't like how Luke Skywalker was pushed down solo, flying solo, doesn't mean that I want the opposite, which is him being this god Jedi who could take down AT-ATs. Yep. Like, that's not what I'm saying, and I don't think that's what anyone is saying who
that's definitely what a lot of people are saying. They're tweeting photos of Han Solo and Luke together, being like, this is what we want for the Last Jedi. That would have been really
cool.
No, it wouldn't have.
That would have been really cool.
You want fan service?
To see Luke and Han together?
Nah. I think this like...
But
that's what you expect. That's what you want.
Whatever. That's fine. My point is that because just because I don't like what they did with Luke doesn't mean that I want the exact opposite. And that is that's what's so annoying to me about engaging in discourse around that, because there is a complete lack of nuance.
Well, that's every topic. Here's a good segue to the next thing I want to know from you guys. Given all that context, can this next movie be good? They have to like, I don't think the community at large wants like a direct sequel to The Last Jedi. I think they want part of it, but they want part of The Force Awakens into some new, like, save us J.J. Abrams.
Do you know why I'm excited about this movie?
You're excited about it.
I'm very excited about it.
Excited about
J.J. Abrams has gone on record saying he loved The Last Jedi script so much, he was jealous he didn't get to direct it.
Yep.
And he wants to take those decisions and go bolder.
I will have no problem with bold decisions.
Yeah, you do.
Nope. I will have no problem with bold decisions.
Did you hear him? Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I said no. I will have no problem with bold decisions as long as they respect the universe.
Okay.
See, now this is the problem. If the bomber scene, okay, we haven't talked about the bombers.
Oh, God.
Listen, but this is the thing. The only problem that I have with the bomber scene, and I made a whole video
This
about
is
this
one
on
of
my
the
personal.
opening scenes of The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I made a whole video about this on my personal channel. The whole problem with the bomber scene is not the fact that we got that really cool micro story with Paige Tico, or the fact that they failed there as a plot device for Poe to get yelled at by Holdo and to start off his arc. That's not the problem. The problem is that those bombers don't make any fucking sense in the Star Wars universe.
Why?
That's the only problem.
Because you haven't seen them before, they weren't part of the original trilogy, so
no,
they're not part of what
because
it is.
they don't make
they
any-
drop out of that ship by gravity?
No, they have it's accelerated. They have magnetic accelerators.
Okay, thank you for that.
Don't get me off track here. The problem with the bombers is that they make no sense in the Star Wars universe. They have B-wings and Y-wings. They have bomber craft that are light and fast and maneuverable. They didn't need to use these crazy things. And I know there are canon reasons for why the Resistance didn't have access to B-wings and Y-wings, but the problem is that those bombers, the MG-100 Star Fortresses, have no place in the Star Wars universe when B-wings and Y-wings exist. Okay, so listen. Go back to Rise of Star.
Bring us back to the next
Rise
movie.
of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker.
Bold decisions.
Bold decisions. Love it. Okay, and I will say, I thought the narrative choice with Luke was interesting as well. The only problem is that, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many other hardcore Star Wars fans, that was not true to Luke's character. So, as long as the bold decisions that they make are in line with what we've seen and make sense in the universe, then I have no problem with it.
You say that, but I know the real thing is that you expected something from the extended universe. You saw Luke lead the Jedi Order in a certain way, and that's what you expected. And so I think people are like, the term is the subversion, and people like threw that around, and people are really upset that
What
they
does
didn't
the
get
subversion refer to?
Oh, just that Luke isn't like what you expect. He's in a different spot than you expect, and that's why so many people are upset. It's because they wanted a certain Luke, and they didn't get him, and like. Just he's more complex. He's more interesting. Like
I will say that I feel this way, and a lot of other people that I've seen, like not liking the Last Jedi, feel this way as well. It's not the fact that there were subversions. So that's great. That's a hallmark of good writing is when you can like surprise the audience. The problem is that there were so many in that movie. It got to the point where it was just comedy.
There's not that many,
dude. There's a part. Leia, okay, a bomb hits the cruiser ship that Leia's on. She gets sucked out into the void of space.
You think she's dead? No.
She floats back in. Then they open the door and let her in and then close the door. There's no like decompression chamber. There's no anteroom. There's one door between them and the vast nothingness of space. They just open and no one gets sucked out of that.
I appreciate your input, but this is distracting from the real point because there was an airlock there. It's fine.
There's not.
We saw the steam coming in. You know,
steam. You need to close one door, then open the other door.
I know.
Whatever.
Okay. Yeah, but the point is that like, okay, the Leia scene was a great example. Oh, you think Leia's dead? Just kidding, she's not. Oh, you think Luke Skywalker is going to be a real Jedi Master because that makes sense? No, he's not. Oh, you think that Snoke is going to be someone important? No, he's not. There's more, but my brain is failing.
Here's my question for
you.
you.
Those are the big ones.
I'm gonna look them up. I have a big
Luke
list.
was kind of cool in this movie, or in 8. I want to know if you guys have faith in the next movie, or do you think like if you're gonna have to place odds on it, that odds are it's gonna suck, or are you thinking I'm pretty faithful. This is gonna be the best one yet.
I think it's going to be right in line with the other current trilogy, where it's going to be a good movie, and Star Wars fans are just not going to enjoy it. And I want to say this, Star Wars fans, I really appreciate your passion. but the original trilogy is never coming back. Those movies were made without the constraints of the extended universe, and that you try and put these constraints on these modern movies means that you'll never, ever enjoy these movies. And I'm sorry for you, because these are good movies. These are actually like really good movies, and you're missing out. And
I don't
like,
know, man. My wife has no context, and she's like, "This sucks."
She just doesn't like sci-fi stuff, though, right?
Well,
Yeah, pretty much.
okay, this is an interesting point, and I think that's a really good argument that maybe it's not possible. You know, maybe it's not possible to make new Star Wars movies and be faithful to fan expectations, you know? But I look at the love that's out there for Jedi Fallen Order and Star Wars The Clone Wars and Rebels and the comic books and games. It's like and The Mandalorian. Like there are new Star Wars things being made that are faithful to the originals and to the, you know, the quote unquote expanded universe. And people like those. It's when people like Rian Johnson and the Disney people, because I don't blame this all on Rian Johnson. It's Disney, okay?
Disney.
It's when they come in there and think that they can do whatever they want and just let's make these new bombers and let's change the way the Force works and let's change the way lightsabers works and let's go with this story for Luke Skywalker because it's more narratively interesting to me than something that makes a little more sense in universe. Like that it's that is like destroying Star Wars because
that's not what's destroying Star Wars. What's destroying Star Wars is making a movie every year. And the fact that like we're getting all these side stories that aren't that interesting. And like you talk about Clone Wars and Mandalorian. Clone Wars isn't very good. Mandalorian's
Mandasnorian, am I right?
It's okay.
Do you think they're going to do a break after this movie comes out? How long?
Rogue One is good.
It's pretty good. I think.
And I liked Solo, but it was a little tarnished because it was the first Star Wars thing we got since The Last Jedi. So I was like in a bad mood. But I didn't see that in theater.
How much of a gap until the next trilogy starts?
I think they're waiting a couple years, and I think they're rebooting their approach. Like they brought Kevin Feige.
Yeah, Feige always wanted to be on Star Wars.
Feige. So he's being brought on, and I think a vision like that will be helpful. And so I think it's not one movie; it's this whole huge presentation, this huge tour de force that Star Wars has presented us. That's what's killing Star Wars.
Do you think it's a kind of a negative thing to have
the emotions
to have more movies? Like at some point, it becomes James Bond, where there's going to be 30 movies, and we're going to expect them every Christmas as a new Star Wars. Does that take away from how you feel about it overall compared to when there was just 3 or just 6?
I definitely 100%. Think that Disney buying Star Wars and like kind of like churning out things, properties is turning it into another one of those like just like run-of-the-mill franchises. That said, Star Wars has always been, you know, very focused on selling toys and building a franchise. And so that's not surprising, but it is a little disheartening to see it being kind of just like put onto the mass assembly line in such a way.
I don't disagree. And I think...
And I agree The Mandalorian is like a bad show that is only decent because it's Star Wars.
And that's my problem is like, and I think that's that's where the divide is that like I'm more interested in a good movie that's in the Star Wars universe than a Star Wars movie that's good.
But it's not actually in the Star Wars universe.
What do you mean?
And that's the problem.
It's not true. And like you guys you people apply all these rules.
You said you guys, and then you changed it to you people.
Yeah, because he doesn't mean us in the room. It means people like you.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Are trying to apply a filter to this movie that you don't apply to the old movies. And like, you've deified the original trilogy to this level that is uncomparable. You know what? People use an imaginary movie as a reference point. The movie you have in your head in the original trilogy doesn't exist. You've never watched the theatrical cut with the positive changes from the special editions that you like without all the shitty ones in your head. And so the only movie you're able to watch right now is the really shitty special editions with these terrible changes. And so like you've crafted inside your head, you've edited this perfect version of Star Wars.
Oh,
that's the perfect combination.
I disagree. I do not have a very high opinion of the original trilogy movies.
Okay.
The thing that I'm comparing these Star Wars movies against is, and you could argue that this is not good. The thing that I'm comparing it against is what it could be
in your imagination.
The original trilogy, A New Hope, is very good. Empire Strikes Back is pretty good.
Whoa!
Return of the Jedi is fine.
You think A New Hope is better than Empire Strikes Back?
In
That's
context,
not the consensus.
in the context of when it came out and like how freaking bombshell it was, like that's how I view that movie.
Interesting. See, I think for me, it's 5 is clearly superior. A New Hope is below it, but pretty close. And Return of the Jedi is like...
Guys,
we got to wrap this up.
Okay, real quick. I don't necessarily think that Empire Strikes Back is worse than A New Hope. I think that they're on par. But what I'm saying is that neither of them are like perfect.
No.
I don't deify the original trilogy. You tell me that like, oh, this part sucked in the original trilogy, I'm not going to defend it. I'm going to be like, yeah, it sucked. But what it started was the expanded universe, this whole fandom of people who are like into it, the mythology of it. That is what it started.
So you're just
the
disappointed.
Lessons, the themes.
You're disappointed with how they've used all that potential.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. How many times... Oh, David is just a bird with clipped wings.
My point still stands that you have a Star Wars universe in your imagination.
Okay, you've already said that, though.
I do.
Yeah, and that's what you're comparing these movies to. And
yes.
That's impossible. It's an impossible task. Your imagination is so much better than anything a movie can produce for you.
Let me ask you this. How many times have you seen the trailer for the next movie?
0.
You're blind?
What?
I'm blind. I don't want to watch the
You
trailer.
haven't
Same
seen
with
the
the
trailer?
Same with The Last Jedi. Just avoid.
How can you be confident that it's going to be good then?
Because it's going to be good.
I actually am
See,
so
that's
jealous
just
of
the
you.
blind faith that you accuse me of.
Tell me in 2 days when I'm wrong.
Okay,
All right.
how many times have you
I
seen the
don't
trailer?
think that it's going to be horrible.
Have you seen the trailer
I've
like a
seen the
butt ton?
trailer multiple times. I've looked up the sneak peeks and everything. Okay, I've tried to avoid spoilers as much as I could, but like I've seen it, and I didn't ever answer the question of whether I think it's going to be good. I think there's a very high possibility that it could be fine and like better than The Last Jedi. I don't have high hopes because the faith that I had in Star Wars and the happiness that it brought to me
You got baggage now.
has been tarnished. And this is what The Last Jedi did, is it took all these people who really care about this franchise and about the mythology and were just like, you don't matter. What actually matters is Rian Johnson telling an interesting narrative story.
Well, given that David hasn't seen the trailer that much, we can't really have a section of the show where we talk about what we want to happen or not want to happen or speculate. So I guess we're just going to have to tune in next week after we've all seen it.
I feel no release. I thought after finishing this podcast, I would feel peace and like
This podcast needs to be 5 hours long. And you guys need
Okay, wait. No, hold on. This is how we end this, okay? Remember? So like
arm wrestle.
to people who don't know, this podcast is called Carpool Critics because we were in a carpool and David and I have had many conversations and James was there as well.
Let me tell you, I had enough.
Many conversations about Star Wars and we talked about, I mean, I'm actually surprised that we talked as much as we did because we've already covered this so many times.
You would think that horse would be so dead and beaten.
Yeah. But what we got to at the end, remember we found a compromise, which is that I said that The Last Jedi is a decent movie. Okay, I wouldn't say that it's an amazing movie, but it's a decent movie if the context of Star Wars isn't there. If The Last Jedi was the first Star Wars movie that we'd ever seen, it would be a decent movie. It would be a fun, good movie, okay? And
if they took out that half an hour at that casino planet that just
I don't even have a problem
sucks.
with that.
It's a 2.5 hour movie. I have a problem.
It's fine.
Yeah, they
It's
could cut
fine.
it. They could cut
It serves Finn and Rose's relationship, and it serves to further their arc. That's fine. Okay, I have no problem with Canto Bight. So I would say that it's a decent movie without the Star Wars context. And you said the same
Star
thing.
Wars.
The same thing. We agree.
That was the compromise where I was like, okay, basically the whole reason I'm mad at this movie is because it doesn't respect the source material. It doesn't respect the universe that it takes place in. And you said that it's a really good movie. And so that was the compromise.
Yep.
And I'm still happy with that. It's a fine movie. I have no problem with the narrative choices made. The only problem I have is that they were made at the expense of Star Wars.
And Kylo Ren is topless for no reason.
That was hot, dude.
Why? And he's oddly wide.
What do you rate Kylo Ren out of
He's
10?
swole.
Swole
out of 10.
Personality or looks?
Combo.
Oh man. Well, I've always been into rescue dogs. You know, I'm a fixer, so I'm gonna have to say he's a 9 for me.
Well, thank you for listening to our...
Real quick.
Oh god, here we go again.
Rey and Kylo Ren, their Force time sessions,
Yeah.
brilliant. I loved it. There was nothing I hated about that. Pure character development.
And then
Give me more of that.
Snoke was responsible for that. Wow.
Yeah, it was great. I
he
loved
bridged
that.
their mind.
I loved all of that.
That was
There
cool.
were parts I loved.
Should they ever become romantic? Would that just ruin?
I
would
hope
it
not.
ruin
I
it
hope
if they
not,
kiss?
But it's probably going to happen.
Oh, can you imagine?
Raylo's a thing, probably. I don't want it to be, but it's a thing. He's going to be redeemed. Or he's going to be redeemed last second and then he's going to die saving
Did
somebody.
you say Raylo?
Raylo.
What is that?
Kylo Ren and Raylo. And,
That's their couple
and Rey.
name?
Raylo.
Oh, I love it.
That's who people who ship them say.
Can I? Thank you very much for listening to the podcast. If you don't want to hear one last thing, just tune it off right now. But this is my only public forum that I can air this grievance. The special edition, when they change Anakin Skywalker.
This is never going to end. I love it.
Anakin Skywalker for Hayden Christensen is the worst thing in the entire Star Wars saga.
Agree.
The fact that they put young Anakin Skywalker means that he was never redeemed and that Anakin Skywalker was never, as an old man, was never redeemed, and that he fully died as young Anakin Skywalker, and that this whole other being isn't a whole other being because they show young.
That's a whole nother interpretation of it. But
Why is it young Anakin Skywalker if it's not that? If it's not,
it's because of George Lucas is an idiot.
Why
That's
does
what I'm
this
saying.
alien have 4 boobs and like Luke has to drink milk from its tit like and just stare at Rey?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Guys,
Everything
join
just-
us a few days from now after we've seen the new one and hopefully, God,
And I'm going to love it.
maybe
It's going to be a huge twist. I'm going to be
Riley's
fully
gonna
on board.
I'm gonna hate it.
Rise of Skywalker is going to fix every problem I have with the sequel trilogy, and I'm going to be back in the Star Wars.
can you imagine just
Religion.
wearing shirts? Everything is cast in a new light. I love it
I'm
now.
going to write a letter of apology to Ryan Johnson and Bob Iger.
And George Lucas.
Yep. I'm sorry for calling you an idiot, George. Hopefully he never listens to this because that would be really sad.
If you do listen to it, you can come onto the podcast. Riley won't be here. I'll interview you one-on-one.
We don't have enough room for all that.
Okay.
Nick. Thanks for watching, guys. That's it. Like and subscribe. Rate this podcast. What else do you do at the end of these
I don't
things?
know.
See you later.
Tune in soon.